NFTs. Look, most people still have no clue what a Bitcoin is, what blockchain is. Most people still have no idea. So why don't you explain it in your words? When you think about blockchain, then go to cryptocurrency, hypothetically Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever it is, explain that, then go to NFT. So give me a series of educating each, then leading into NFTs.
Sure. So the blockchain is basically just a series of sort of like, look at it like a big spreadsheet where everybody can like add rows to it and everybody agrees on this spreadsheet. So everybody kind of agrees, okay, this is what's happened. These are all the transactions and this is what's happened. So what that allows you to do is have something like a Bitcoin, and you can't just copy and paste it because everybody else will be like, what? No, you can't do that. That's not part of the rules. So with Bitcoin, again, you can't just, oh, okay, I've got one, copy and paste. Now I've got two. Like, that's not how it works. That's why Bitcoin actually has value. And NFTs are very similar to that. They exist on the blockchain. It's another thing sort of written to the blockchain. In this case, it's an Ethereum, which is a different blockchain than sort of Bitcoin. There's multiple different blockchains, basically like multiple different sort of spreadsheets that everybody's kind of agreeing on. And with Ethereum, you can also sort of program in rules for how these sort of like, you know, things on the blockchain work. So you can put little programs on top of the like tokens and stuff. So the NFTs is really just a proof of ownership. It's really just proving you own this token on the blockchain. And the token itself can kind of point to different things. It's kind of say, okay, well, this token points to a picture. This token points to a video. This token points to a thing. And just like with Bitcoin, you can prove you are the only person that owns it, and you can't just copy and paste and, okay, now I've got two of them. So it is a very hard, it is a very sort of, you know, different sort of paradigm for what we've been used to with digital. Whereas with, you know, digital and the internet and computers, we're used to, you copy a file, you copy another, here's another copy, here's another copy. We can just make a million copies all day. Nobody knows where the first one was. They're all completely identical. Who cares? No, you can't own it. It's just out there, and you make another copy and So it is a bit, you know, sort of hard to kind of wrap your head around. And it is a different, like, sort of like paradigm shift. But I think once people do, they'll realize that it's sort of, it's really similar to owning a bunch of different things. That there's different analogies for owning something virtual and sort of applying value to that already exists. So say like an MP3, you know, you could have a million copies of sort of, you know, Michael Jackson's Thriller, but that's very different from the person who owns the master recording. And so when you have a copy of it, nobody thinks, oh, okay, well, you own Thriller. Like, of course you don't. Like, you don't own the master recording. And so that's what it's kind of like with this. Anybody can download a copy of my picture, but that doesn't mean you own it, because you don't own the token that says you own the picture.
Well, then that's a follow-up. So here's a follow-up question that comes on that. So
sure.
If you own the master of Michael Jackson or Beatles or whoever they are, which Elvis Presley, those are pretty valuable, you know, masters to own. If I play that song on a video, YouTube would flag it and bring it back and say, you have to pay these guys XYZ. If I listen to the song, I have to pay 99 cents to iTunes or $1.29. If I buy an album, I have to pay $30 or whatever it may be, right?
Yep.
If you own Everydays,
yep,
and somebody else decides to use it, how do you monetize the master of that NFT that you own?
It is a little different. It's not exactly like that. It's more just about sort of like owning like a painting. It's more, in that case, it's sort of like there's a bunch of copies, but it's more like owning a painting, where it's sort of like, it's not quite as easy to sort of directly monetize like that, because there is no way to stop people from like sharing this stuff. So that's not a perfect analogy, but it's one analogy that kind of shows that a bunch of people can own a copy, but then one person can own sort of the like, this is the person who owns it. Well, a bunch of copies still exist.
So let's talk about the painting. So if it's a painting and I come to your house and I say, Mike, wow, what is that painting? You say, yep, it's it's whatever you tell me. I'm like, oh my gosh, when? It was painted in 1973 before, etc. He was going through a divorce and he died 9 years later. So essentially this is his last whatever. Okay, unbelievable. What'd you pay for this? 17 million bucks. Unbelievable, man. Enjoy it. But with this one here, I don't really have a place to put it on there, right? Because I can put every day's as a digital on a 120-inch screen TV in my house and say, look at what Mike built together. This is beautiful, but I don't own it. How is the element of art being appreciated for the work that you did during those 5,000 days?
Yep. So I think that is true. And that's another part of ownership that is very different here, because in the past, a big piece of ownership was restricting access. So in that case you just talked about, you had to go into that guy's house. He had to let you into his house to see this painting. That's not what this is. It's really just about proving ownership. So that's another thing that's a little bit hard for people to wrap their heads around, because in the past, it's sort of like, if you wanted to own something online, the way you showed that is you put it behind a paywall. You said, no, you need to give me money first to see it. That's not what this is. It's really about kind of the opposite of that, actually. The more popular this picture gets, the more valuable it will be. Sort of an example of that is you go into the Louvre and you take a picture of the Mona Lisa and you share that online. Well, you just made another copy of the Mona Lisa available. Do you think that makes the Mona Lisa less valuable because you did that? No, of course not. Like,
absolutely,
it's still like,
not.
Yeah, absolutely not. It is the most valuable painting because it's the most famous painting. That's the thing. And that's what, if I can make this and Matt Winklemann can make this the most famous painting, then it will be the most valuable painting. And so that's kind of like what this is. It's sort of like, it's not about sort of restricting people's access to it. It's just about proving who owns it. So in the case that you said, this thing, how are people going to see it? How are they going to experience it? Well, we're going to try and get it in museums all over the world. And here's the advantage that something digital has, is it doesn't have to take just one form.
That's right.
Like when you have a painting, that guy, your buddy's painting, there's only one painting. It's locked away in his house. Nobody's enjoying it. Nobody's seeing it. And with this, it can take a bunch of different forms, and it can take a bunch of different forms over time. So I can make a copy of it for Medical and be like, here, I'm going to make a big print for you in your house. This is just for you. Here's a copy of it. And then we're going to make a installation in this museum, and we're going to, get a bunch of projectors and make a big, huge, massive projection. And that's going to be in this San Francisco museum. Then we're going to have this museum in Hong Kong. They've got a bunch of screens. We're going to put a bunch of screens in this thing, and we're going to make a copy of it there. So this artwork, because it's digital, could actually exist in a bunch of different places at the same time and have people experiencing it and viewing it. And each one could be slightly different too. So it's something where there are some advantages like that to digital artwork, because again, at the end of the day, it has to come into the physical world somehow. So whether that's on a computer screen, whether that's on a phone, you are viewing it in the real world somehow. So I think that's a huge advantage of it. Can take a bunch of different forms, but then the NFT is still sort of the kind of piece of it that is the actual sort of artwork. Does that make sense? It is, again, it's a bit hard, a different way of looking at it.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.